Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to just continue doing some demo drawings for how to draw some of these clothing. Again, I did a couple yesterday, obviously hitting on a few basic trends from spring 2021. The baggy pant look with the bra top, the sheer sort of top cover that goes over this sort of dress that's adorned with some cutouts and some frills. And I'm going to do one more over here on this figure. I'm going to do a sort of form-fitting dress. You can see the one that I have as my example over there. Kind of has some sleeve stuff and some asymmetrical design. I wanted to try to do an asymmetrical design. So again, this is going to be a dress that sort of hugs the body, hugs the curves. So one of the things we want to decide is where and how low do we want the skirt to go. Now that's up to you, but in this case, again, that skirt is really just going to sort of stick with the shape of the body. So that's an easy part for me to draw. What I'll do here is just erase the interior part of this so that the hem kind of lines up wherever it is that I want to make the hem. And if you want, you can always kind of give a little bit of a line for sort of stress or a texture to kind of give a sense that this is kind of folding over her legs. Now for the top over here, we're going to start from the armpit over here. We don't want to start it all the way up there. We want to kind of think about where the bust line is, where her chest is going to be. And over here, I'm going to start working to try to drape this sort of asymmetrical shoulder strap over. I have my little cutout. And over here with the silhouette, I can always add a little bit more, just accentuate the chest a little bit, give her, more female parts. And you could do that with just a couple of lines on one side or the other. Now remember, since she's sort of leaning to the side a little bit in this pose, that means that things are not going to be exactly symmetrical down the center of the drawing. So on this side, we're going to get a little bit of the silhouette, the bump out. On this side, you'll just get the sense of the side leading up into the arm. We have the wrist. This one goes all the way to the wrist. So all I have to do right here is really just kind of cut that off. I will kind of refine my elbow a little bit. And then on the other side, this one looks more like a sleeve that you would put up her arm. Well, I just need to decide where that sleeve is going to start and end to add over there. Now, for the rest of this sort of drawing, I guess the only things that I would do is I would sort of touch up a little bit of the body. I would at least hint over here at hands. And then what I do want you to do is come back to these things. Even if it's a very simple face, I'd like you to add faces. Again, we spent a little time on how to do those and how much to add. So again, you don't need to really make them super detailed, but I do want to have at least a little hint of a face. And again, whatever you want to do in terms of hair, that is up to you. Alright, and I could spend a little bit more time obviously working on the face, but what I'm going to do is just going to touch this up just a little bit, and I'm going to move on to another sort of dress or fashion layout. So that would be the almost done with this project. I think the only things that I would do here is I would obviously add a face here, maybe finish off the feet. I'll spend a little time on shoes maybe tomorrow. I'm going to switch over to my next set of models. As promised, let me take a look and see about linking us up to one of the men's looks. Click over here for the trends for men, and I think what I'll go with, I think I'll start with one of the suits. I know that the sort of 90s era big baggy suit is really kind of on trend, or going to be on trend right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of that and try to work on the larger sort of baggy suits. So I'm going to take a look at a couple of these. So the larger jackets, I'll take a look at some of these pictures over here. I'll use them as my inspiration. and pull up my drawing. I'm going to use the classic sort of pose here for my figure. And first things first, I'm going to start off with the top coat. Alright, so we're going to start off with trying to figure out the lapel. So right up here, we kind of want to make a little bit of a diagonal line from the shoulder to the neck over here, and that's going to be the start of my lapel. I'm going to want to come down and kind of make a sort of V in here. Now you can decide on which side you want the jacket to be buttoned, the left or the right. I'm going to sort of design this to be a little bit on the baggier side. And then for the actual lapel itself, you can do a lot of different styles. I'll do that sort of wide lapel, which is that fold over collar. On this side, a lot of that is going to be hidden underneath the jacket, so I'm going to look to try to get it remotely about the same size and thickness. Okay, I'm going to have my oversized buttons over here, and then we want to kind of think around the shoulders. You know, this jacket is going to kind of sit on the actual shoulders that we've drawn, but as we get away from like the armpits and the rest of the body, we want to kind of think how that jacket's going to fall. Where would it hit? Now with his hip sticking out over here, the jacket, and I'm going to make it a little bit larger jacket, it's going to hit right there. So I'm going to go ahead and erase some of the body parts over there. I'm going to look at the sleeves, and again with the sleeves, these are baggier sleeves. So out here, it's probably going to touch and hit this side of the body, but flare out a little bit around the wrist. And that's going to be really the edge of that jacket, the cuff of that jacket. And again, you might want to put just a little indicator at a crease here, but because this is going to be a baggy sleeve, we're really not going to get that empty space anymore under his arm. Now I'm going to go ahead and then erase some of the interior lines in here. And if I wanted to put like a little crease or a little fold, I could always add a little bit. That just gives you a hint that maybe that is sort of like a pressed, pleated area. He's going to wear a dress shirt underneath that, so I'm going to sort of double up that collar. I've got my hand down over here, at least the start of a hand. I'm going to work to the other side. Now I've got my jacket, I've got my two buttons buttoned, I've got the other side of it. Again, it's going to be a little bit more baggy on this side, sort of come up into the body a little bit. I'm going to look to my sleeve over here. Since it is a larger kind of sleeve, I'm going to have it hang a little bit lower over here, but on the top part of his arm, that's where the sleeve itself is going to kind of hang and drape on pretty form-fittingly. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of the lines over there. And again, a little extra collar there for his shirt that's going to be underneath it. In this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to the inspiration. A lot of these guys are not wearing a collared shirt underneath, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do one of those like t-shirts underneath. Just give it a little bit of a hint of the collarbones, the sort of chest bones up here, kind of see how things are going to fit. And I'm going to go to the pants. Again, the pants are going to be kind of baggy, a little bit form-fitting up near the hip and the thigh, but then it's going to sort of flare out around the ankle. So again, sort of closer and hugging around the calf. It's a little bit wider right there at the thigh. I'm going to get rid of some of the underdrawing now of the leg and clean that up. I want to give it a little hint. I just don't want it to be a straight line over here. A lot of these pants have pleating, which is like a crease that's put in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a line in here, kind of hint at that creasing. I'm also going to put a little kind of line right there at the knee to kind of give me the hint that a knee is sticking out on there. I'm going to go to the other leg. Again, on this side, it's going to kind of follow along the contours of the body as we get out over here. It's going to be a little bit looser and hanging off the body on this side. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of those lines. I'll put again my little line, my little crease in the pant, maybe a little bump here just for the knee, just to kind of give it a hint. And we'll talk about shoes again. I'll spend some time on shoes tomorrow. for the end of this suit over here, I think what I would do is I would get back up in here and kind of give this guy a little bit of a face. And I'll spend some time with that a little bit later. I'm going to go to my center figure. I'm going to try a completely different look. Let's do something again. It's just a little bit of a different look. We'll make it a male model over here. Again, I'm going to go with the baggy pants, but with a tight shirt over here. So I'm going to decide where the hips are going to be and where the pants are going to ride. Are they going to be a high rise, mid rise, low rise? Try to establish where that's going to be. This is going to be my belt line, just like the pants I drew the other day. I'm going to sort of establish a little bit of a belt buckle, a couple belt loops on each side. We got the fly for the pants, and by the pockets maybe they'll pop out a little bit. These pants that particular model wearing have like a little bit of a pocket area, so I'm going to have the pants flare out a little bit over here. And then again, we're going to go with a bit of a baggy sort of look. And what you could do is you could make a couple little ridges. You don't have to make it one straight line that goes all the way down to the bottom. More ridges and more creases as you get closer to the bottom and the ankle. And you see how the drawing that I've done is kind of hugging the leg. A little more space out on the side, definitely a lot more space down by the ankle. I'll go ahead and erase some of that underdrawing. Again, I'm going to add a little bit of an element of pleating, a couple little lines, just to kind of show off that the pant has creases in them. And do the same thing on this side. Couple little lines, erase the original part of my leg, cleaning up the drawing as I'm working on it. A little there just to kind of give it a sense of baggy sort of pants. I'm going to cuff them at the bottom over here. Alright, and then we're going to have a shirt. So in this case, the shirt that we're going to do one that's a little bit baggy, so it's going to be tucked in. So right here at the waist, it's going to kind of come out a little bit and just kind of move up into the body. We're going to do a collar on the shirt, so I'm going to do a little diamond shape up top over here, kind of decide where the collar is going to fit and how big I want to make it. It'll be a button down, so I'm going to kind of drop a line over here for my pocket on it. Down here where the shirt's a little baggy, what I'm going to do is add a few little creases. Shoulders will stay pretty much the same as the figures. As we do the arm, and have it get a little baggier around the wrist, and then just put the little cuffs down here. Clean up my drawing. It's kind of hard to know exactly where should I put a fold or where should I put a crease, but the more of these that you draw, you'll start to get a feel for you should put a fold and a crease where things are sort of have tension, like near the elbow, near the wrist. Now we go ahead and add a head and hair and everything else on that, but I'm going to go on to another figure. Let's see, I did some baggier clothing, I think, on the last couple over here. Let's try a dress that has a little bit, it's not so form-fitting, maybe it has just a little bit more or sort of shape to it. Let's take a look at a couple of examples. Okay, it's kind of a little poofier, a little draped skirt that doesn't hang directly on the shape of the body. I'm going to go ahead and try that, give you a little variety over here. So again, we could see the sort of bodice, the corset, the part of the dress that really is form-fitting is here by the waist and by the chest. So we're going to start with that since it just basically follows the body. I'm going to, again, decide approximately where the décolletage is. We want to think like with her body being tilted and everything, that means that the shape of the dress is going to be a little tilted. So when you see the area over here, like for the bra, one side will probably be a little bit higher than the other. Since like her shoulders are sloping, the dress should slope a little bit. We can add a little bit more shape to this side. That's where the bust is. If you want to put a little line over here to sort of indicate the difference between the bust and the underarm on this side, that's fine too. All right. On this particular dress, it sort of goes straight up over here to the shoulder part. And then at the shoulders, we have sort of a little like poofed out area. So I'll kind of let this shape kind of get a little big. And then it looks like to me it's going to kind of pinch in right above the elbow. And that's where you're going to get this sort of fluttered end. Now how to do sort of draped fabric like this, like you see on the edges over here, we'll start with just a sort of wavy type line, just like what you've seen over here. And then what we want to do is we want to think like, where is this thing pinched? This thing is pinched up by the elbow. I can just put a couple little lines to kind of indicate a little bit of a crease or a fold. And I could do that up top as well. So we're going to have this sort of poofy top shoulder kind of thing. We have the body of this dress fairly form-fitting. I'm going to do the one on the other side now. And again, I'm just following with the models that I drew. I'm going to make this a little puffier. Have it sort of pinch in by the elbow. And then, since this is in a little different shape, I'm going to make that flare out and then do my sort of wavy line. Up here by the elbow, I will go ahead and add a couple lines for those creases. And also add a little depth to this by adding another little extra part of that line. I'm going to go ahead and clean some of these things up as I'm working. Again, my goal is to give you a variety of ways to go about this. And again, I want you designing your own sort of style of dress. Now we have the skirt. The skirt sort of flares out. It doesn't hug the body. So what we want to do is we want to decide, like right about here for me is where I'm going to have the waist a little bit higher up than the average thing, kind of like where things flare out for the hips. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly sort of figure that right around the hips it's going to hug the body, and then it's just going to kind of go down a little bit looser. And on this side, we'll kind of hug the hip on this side and then just kind of flow out a little bit, flow away from the body. Again, just like I did those sleeves, I want to kind of make a little kind of like a wave sort of line for the hem, and you can decide how high up the hem you want. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of the stuff that's going to be covered by this particular skirt. So I would draw the whole body first and not the clothing. That way you know how to drape the clothing. Now you can see up here is where everything is sort of hemmed and tucked in. So this is where the start of some of those folds are going to happen. So to kind of hint at creases, you just want to make some diagonal lines of varying lengths. By making them some long, some short, it creates a little bit of a hint that, okay, there's a little bit of pinched up fabric over here. And then we want to kind of pick out just a few spots, kind of make a few longer lines. Now, where do I like to put those longer lines? I like to make them going towards the sort of lower dip that I have in my actual drawing down over here. Now, this particular dress has like a second little sort of detail piece. That detail piece should be curved basically the same way as you curve the bottom. And we could just add a little bit of a fringe to that if I want to, and make it stand out a little bit. underneath here to give this a little more depth. I can always kind of add a little bit more of a line, just kind of like show that the skirt continues all the way around. And there I have my sort of, I guess, springish dress that kind of hangs on the body a little looser, and the other one, you know, is hide the hand behind that part of the skirt. This side I'm going to want to kind of finish off fingers a little bit, kind of give it a look. And then I could always, like I said, I'll spend some time tomorrow going over shoes a little bit. So giving you a few more looks to think about over here. Got a couple male ones, or at least more masculine kind of clothing with your traditional but baggy kind of draped on suit, the sort of baggy trousers, and a sort of loose fitting kind of accent shirt. And this one where we have a form fitting top on a very loose and sort of draped, figure draped kind of skirt with some puffy shoulders and a loose draped sort of accent on the sleeve. I think I can set up and maybe do one more for the day. If I have a model who's ready to pose for me, and I do, I'll bring out one of the other drawings that I set up over here. Let's try to look for something just a little bit different. And maybe the short sleeve dress. Why not? Okay, I'm going to try the short sleeve dress now on my model. We're going to go ahead and set that up. Oops. Okay, we're going to use the center model over here. Let's take a look first. It's relatively form-fitting with a little bit more of, I guess, looser material. So we make the shoulders just kind of pop out just a little bit more. And I'm going to add a little bit of extra material over there. Kind of give the dress a little bit of a, you know, substantial look up top. Add a little bit of extra material in and around on this side. I'm going to go ahead and erase some of the body underneath there. Take a look. This is kind of fabric that's sort of pulled and a little baggy and loose, so creased. So what I'm going to do is just kind of add some little lines of tension, like the fabric itself is being pulled. I'm going to add the sort of hem at where the actual sleeves would be sewn on. I'll give it a couple little lines. And again, when you're adding those lines for folds and creases, try not to make them all the same thickness and all the same length. You know, varying them makes it seem a little bit more realistic. It's really sort of a crew neck over here, so I'm just going to decide where that's going to be on my model. I want to take a look. You can add a little bit more of a bust line, a little bit more of the chest. Again, a little tighter around the shoulders. We've got some pleating and some stuff in and around the bust line, so I'll add some lines and stuff like that to it. The rest of this body sort of contours around the hips. It hits a lot lower on the figure than the other one did, so I'm going to decide where that tight form-fitting part sort of ends, and I'll end it right about there. So what I'll do is I'll clean up some of these other things, and since I want to have my model's going to have her hands sort of in front, I'll just go ahead and kind of roughen the hands a little bit more, so I don't have to sort of draw over top of them again later on. Alright, when I get down over here, we have like sort of a looser, sort of ruffly part of fabric. I'll kind of go ahead and kind of make that wave shape again. I'll clean up a little bit of the lines over there. Add some of these little vertical lines to kind of indicate creases and sort of pinches and folds. And then the rest of the skirt kind of drapes, flares out a little bit away from the body. Again, that sort of wavy line down over there. And then up near the top, just kind of pick out some spots to kind of add those little marks for tension and folds. You want to kind of vary the length of them. Some short ones, some that go almost all the way down. I'll add a little bit extra to that. And the rest of her legs just stick out the bottom. I'll add a few more little tension lines and creases and folds for this particular kind of fabric, just to kind of give the viewer a little bit of a sense of the overall style of this particular dress. And go ahead and sort of fix and finish the rest of her arms and legs. Now one more look for the day. I'll go ahead and add a little face there. And I've got my little model set up over here. And we'll worry about shoes tomorrow. Hopefully that those demos that I did for today are helpful. We'll do some more tomorrow.